Welcome to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and I review fountain pens, nibs. We're going to look at a different kind of a nib today, and all kinds of related writing utensil things. It's kind of like Hank Hill from King of the Hill, propane and propane accessories. Well, I do fountain pens and fountain pen accessories, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I never really thought of it that way. But today I've got a budget pick for people who are looking at whether or not they might want a stub nib. A stub nib enables you to write with more line variation in your writing, and we'll talk about that more as we get a closer up view of this pen and what it does. But sometimes we don't want to invest a great big chunk of money in something we're not sure that is for our writing style, or that we know how to use it, or maybe you just don't want to invest a lot of money. This is an option. It's not perfect, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, but it was a surprisingly good option for exploring, do I like a stub nib, do I not like a stub nib? So if you've been wondering, what's a stub nib, what's it all about, how does it help me write differently, do I care, then watch this review. And if you're looking for an inexpensive kind of introduction to writing with a stub nib, this might be an option for you. So let's check this out, flip the camera and look a little bit closer. Okay, let's take a closer look at this pen. And let me say up front, it costs about a little under $5, and that's with shipping included from China. So it's an inexpensive pen, and it's part of why I wanted to share it with you today. It comes with 3 different nibs. It comes with a 1.1, which is currently in the pen, 1.5, and a 1.9, all stub nibs, and each is nib feed and section in a unit. The finish is really quite nice, and this pen is maybe a little bit less today about the design than it is the function. But you know, for a $5 pen, I think it looks nice. It's very light. It is metal. I'm not sure what kind, but it is a light metal. I'm going to assume that the metal itself is kind of soft. This finish is. I already have, I don't know if you'll see when I'm turning it around here. Let's see if I can get that camera to. There we go. There, you see there's a flaw there, a scratch, and one there. Just in normal use, there are, yeah, there's another one. There are some scratches in the pen, and I am very easy on my pens. I don't toss them around or anything like that, other than the occasional cap that slings across the table, which you are witness to if you're a regular viewer. But just a delicate finish, kind of know that going in. That's the trade-off for a $5 stub with 3 different sizes, is that the finish is a little bit delicate. The clip is not. That thing is strong and will do a just fine job for whatever it is that you use your clip for. And then design-wise, very simple. It has the Hero logo and the name in English and in Chinese, and then the model number, the 5028, which I have a hard time remembering. I do like that they put this on the back. So very, very simple design. These are 3 little metal bands, if you like to know that sort of thing. Very simple. It ends to both the cap and the barrel. Let's take a look at the business end of this pen. So here's the nib, and nicely decorated. It is a stub nib. It is smooth. Now, if you're new to stubs and italics, a stub is going to be smoothed edged. Can you see that? Hopefully. You can see that it's not a real sharp edge, where an italic nib, for example, if you look at my Plumix review, which I really need to redo because that pen has redeemed itself over time to me, and I would give it a little bit better review than I did when I first got it. My first impression was not as good as my long impression. Anyway, sharp edges on an italic nib and smooth on a stub, but both offer a lot of line variation. Again, this is the 1.1. And this is the one that I started with, and I'm glad because this one gives a really good first impression, or at least on the pen that I've got does. It says Hero here on the grip section, which does not actually interfere with your writing at all. My fingers line up pretty much both sides there, so you don't really feel that. Comfortable to write with, very, very light, as I mentioned, which you know, for some people, that's their preference. It does, of course, come with a converter. Whoop. One thing about it, this is a quirk of the pen. Let's talk quirks for a second. One of the quirks is that finish. The other is that this little ring right here, because it has to be there regardless of which section you're using, is not glued to the barrel. It would be nice if that were part of the barrel, but it is not. So you have to be careful because it's easy to lose that ring, I would think. I haven't lost it myself yet. This is all plastic, and then the converter also all plastic. And you're going to like or not like this, I would assume, based on the kind it is. It is a slide converter. You know, it functions just fine for what it is. That is a thin piece of material there, that the part of the piston that goes out to the barrel, that is thin. But I haven't had any leakage problems or anything like that. But it is just a push piston, so you just push it in. There's no screw. Now, in one hand, it's easy to use, very, very simple. Obviously, how reliable is that going to be? But the one problem is it's kind of stiff to start. And if you were trying to maybe just prime the nib, maybe you let it sit for a couple of days and you need to prime the nib, boy, you're going to have to be careful because it's stiff at first, which is going to cause you to push too much ink out the front, and then you may be squirting whoever's sitting next to you in the eyeball with the ink. So be careful with that. All right, that's just what it is. It is what it is. But I think I should have checked this. I will make a note right up here. I'll check it when I'm off camera. I believe that you can put an international standard cartridge there if you've got one that you like a little bit better. But at least it does come with something. So that's always a plus. Now all you do, of course, to swap out nibs is unscrew that, plug this into the other one, and you're ready to go. Just remember the little metal ring and don't lose that in the carpet. So there you go. That's pretty much the design of the pen. Very, very simple. Let me show you. I've only got two hands, but this is the 1.9. This will give you an idea of the difference in the width. And then you have in the middle between those two the 1.5. So the 1.1, the 1.9, and the 1.5, so that you can do different size of writing with your stub nib, different purposes and things. So pretty versatile set. If you're only going to have three, these are three good sizes to have because it does open up a lot of writing possibilities. So now let's go and do the writing test and see how each of these three stub nibs writes. All right, let's start with the 1.1. This is a Hero 5028. Now, one thing that impressed me just right out of the package with this pen is that this is actually quite smooth. It is really it's a nice little stub nib. Inexpensive, a little steel nib, nothing fancy, but really quite good. So this is the 1.1 stub. And you can already see why people like to write with stub nibs. You see that line variation there? This is a Noodler's Midnight Blue. I like this color. And I think a stub shows it off better than just a normal nib. I think it shows the color variation in it, which with some, just a medium or a fine, you might not think there is that much, but there is when you start writing with this pen. So first, let me just show you how well that does. So you're going to get thin lines at an angle like this, kind of in the middle for horizontal. I guess I could do the same number, right? Up and down, you get a lot wider, and then this way as well. So you can see, do another 8, just how good that line variation is. Really, really cool. And so if you're looking for a way to put that variation in your writing, and maybe a flex nib, maybe you've tried that and you thought it was frustrating. You know, I get frustrated with the slowness of a flex nib. You really do have to take your time more. I don't always want to do that, just to be honest. And so a stub is a great option for somebody who is high on fountain pen writing and low on patience compared to the flex. Flex is not for everybody. It's all right. That's all right. But if you want more line variation, I keep wanting to say vine variation. What is the deal today? The line variation, then this is a great option. And I think this is 1.1, and I think for me, and it's going to vary depending on the size of your handwriting and yada, yada, yada. For me, I really like 1.1. It just kind of finds a sweet spot. In this set, it is actually the small one, but I do find that this one writes really nice and smooth. If you take your time, you know, you can get some really neat calligraphy writing if you're into that. I don't really do calligraphy. I can if I really set my mind to it. We had to in elementary school. Two things that no millennial or Gen Zer will ever have to say, but that some of us who are Gen Xers and older can, is that we had to do calligraphy in school, not just cursive, calligraphy. And that was in the 6th grade, I believe. In the 5th and 6th grade, we had to square dance. Now, that's an odd thing looking back in time, to think that we had to square dance. And especially in the 5th grade, you know, you're kind of on the bubble of whether or not you've decided whether or not you want to dance with that girl or not. You know, it's still a little bit of the cootie thing in the 5th grade, but it just an odd thing to do. But it could be worse. A friend of mine growing up in a different part of Texas didn't get to square dance. They had to minuet. And if that's not an argument to move to my side of Texas, I don't know what is. Get out of there. Anyway, that's silly. Let's switch over to the 1.5 and see how that writes in comparison with this 1.1. I will say again, just my impressions of the 1.1, really like it. Very smooth writer. Ink flow keeps up perfectly well. And for $5, this 1.1, totally worth the entire purchase. So I'm going to tell you that ahead, and then we'll look at the other two. Now this is the 1.5 millimeter stub. So it's a little bit wider, 0.4 millimeters. You still get very good smooth writing thing. But with this width, you do have to be, I find, a little bit more careful at making sure that you have all of that down. So here are your widths. Like this. I'm just going to do 3 this time. A little bit more. Then on the downstroke, you really see the difference. And then this you really should see. There you go. I don't think, I'm going to do that again because I think, yeah, that was just me being sloppy. You get really good variation there. That's what you ought to get. Just do. I kind of have to go a little bit slower with this one, so you may notice. Now, while I've been quiet with that, you realize that's nice and smooth and not okay. I'm going to skip because I want to get to this letter. I think it shows it well. Maybe an R. So you get good line variation out of that as well. I didn't realize that was off camera. You get good line variation from this 1.5, more than, as you would expect, than the 1.1. That's just kind of simple math. I do find, maybe it's just me, I have to pay a little bit more attention to the 1.5. I don't really know quite why that is. You would actually think that would be easier because of the increased width, but for some reason, I don't know. That's just me. I have that issue. But slow down, take your time a little bit with this one, and you can see you start to get really great variation in your letters, and of course that's the appeal. You can also do calligraphy and things like that. Now let's take a look at that wide 1.9 nib and see how it performs. So same distance between it and the last nib, and from the last one to the one before. So you kind of know what you might be expecting, right? So we'll do a 1. Oh, look at that. A 1.9 stub. Now that starts to get quite dramatic. How do you like that? Very, very nice. Now this is where I was saying, hopefully the lighting with this, you can see it. You really start to see the variation in this ink, and it really makes this this midnight blue kind of show itself off a little bit. It is actually still a smooth writing nib. And this is what impresses me, particularly the 1.1 and this, the 1.9. I find to be very good, smooth nibs. The 1.5 was as well. It's just, for some reason, the smaller and the wider, to me, showed themselves off a little bit better. Let's do the thick and thin here. And then, I realized I never did do a wetness test. Oh, whoops. I got ahead of myself. Let's do this in order. How about straight up and down? Very, very good. Look at that. So you can just do all kinds of stuff with this one. And go through the letters again and just show you the difference. Let me scoot that up. Running out of camera space. And as I mentioned before, one thing about it is it keeps up well. The ink flow is really good. So, like I said, if you are like me, you don't really, you'll slow down, but you don't want to. I'm going to skip again. The K, the R, you get the idea. If you slow down just a little bit, you can really start to get great variation out of this line. Let me just show you the wetness. I didn't do that for the others, but I think you can see it's putting down plenty of ink. And so that's great. You don't have to slow down as much. I have a flex nib that actually I've yet to review it because I kind of feel like I need more skill with the pen than the review calls for. And so I'm still practicing. I can write with it, but so slow. And the issue I have with that pen is that the ink flow just is not as good as this. And this is excellent. I will tell you, if you were on the fence, do I want a stub nib? I understand that. I get being on the fence. Let me kind of show you those variations in width again. There's the 1.1, the 1.5, and the 1.9. If you're on the fence, I think this is a great place to start. It's not an heirloom pen, and you know what? Not every pen has to be. It is okay to be a fountain pen enthusiast and a cheapskate. Don't let people fool you. The finish on this is okay. It's an inexpensive pen and an inexpensive finish. It looks good, but it is delicate. You will find that on some expensive pens too. And so that really is that's it. That's the only downside I have. There is that converter, but the converter it exists. That puts it ahead of some $100 pens I know of. And it actually does function just fine. You do need to be careful if you fill it up and you get it too full and you want to push out a couple of drops so that it doesn't burp. You're going to have to be pretty careful, because that first that initial push to get that slide moving, it's finicky. And so, but that's true of all slide. I have a Kaweco one too. That's true of all slide converters. So you might swap that out. You got an extra Gen House converter. I've got like 5 of them lying around, 10 of them lying around. Put that in there and have a normal piston converter. No big deal. So that's not a big deal to me. And that really is the only drawback. To me, that's just it. It is an inexpensive pen, so it is what it is. The finish is a little bit delicate, which is a shame, because I actually really do like the finish, especially for a $5 pen. But the writing is over the top good. I have had such good experience with this pen, and when I did a little Googling after, because I wanted to know, did I just get a ringer, or is this like normal for this pen? I saw a lot of good reviews. People who paid $12 for this exact same pen were still saying it was worth more than their $12. So if you're looking to explore, do I like a stub? Do I not like a stub? And you are thinking, I don't want to spend, for example, I had out, there's the review I have of the Twisby 580 ALR with a stub nib. Awesome pen, awesome stub nib. I would not have bought that pen had I not bought this one first. This one convinced me how good a stub nib could be, and it did that for $5. And absolutely fantastic. And if you can only afford the $5 pen and you're thinking, well, I'll never have one of those, nope, grab this pen, because it has not only my good review, but I read from owners otherwise who paid more than I did, more than twice what I did, and still walked away extremely impressed. So not a heavy duty pen, not the most durable barrel and cap because of the finish, but excellent nibs, and you get 3 of them for $5. So I don't think I need to say anything more about that. Great pen, $5. What more is there to like? God bless you. Have a great week. Write your heart out and enjoy whatever you've got. And you know what? I haven't said this in a long time, but I feel like I need to say it with all that's going on in our world. Use that pen to bless somebody's life. Write a quick note, jot a note of encouragement, do something to lift somebody else's spirits, and you'll enjoy the writing and they'll enjoy the reading, and that's really what it's all about. Have a great week.